I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride, even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams.
For as long as I can remember, Spider-Man has been a fixture in my life. Whether it was growing up with the animated series every Saturday morning, or just trying to play the old Neversoft Spider-Man for the PC, even though our computer back in the day could barely handle it. I was into the wall crawler right from the beginning. But it wasn't until Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out that my fandom went through the roof. At 7 years old, that 2002 film cemented Spider-Man as my favorite superhero. And 22 years later, that's still the case. But 20 years ago, we were blessed with arguably one of the greatest comic book movies we have ever seen. A film that, in my opinion, has stood the test of time and is still as relevant and beloved all these years later. I'm gonna be honest, I've been pretty nervous to make a video on this movie because of how important it is to me. I want to do it justice. So it was going to happen eventually, but at the perfect 20-year mark, I think it's finally time to talk about Spider-Man 2. Since 2002, we've had a lot of Spider-Man movies, and I'll even argue that we've never really gotten a bad Spider-Man movie. Some may disagree, but I think every film that's centered around Spidey is enjoyable for the most part. Obviously, I think the first two Raimi films are top tier, but I still love Spider-Man 3, the Andrew Garfield films, and mostly all the Tom Holland films. And I'm sorry if I piss off any MCU fans, but Homecoming and Far From Home are my least favorite Spider-Man films. If you want to know my quick ranking of all of them, here it is. But even after 20 years, none of them have come close to what Spider-Man 1 and 2 achieved. And some of you may be wondering, wait, you have Spider-Man 1 before Spider-Man 2? Yes, I do, but here's why. The first Raimi film was the thing that set off my love for this character, and the nostalgia for it will always make it my number one. But objectively, I think Spider-Man 2 is the better film all around. Yes, there are things I prefer about Spidey 1 over 2, but I hope you get what I'm saying when I say Spider-Man 2 is just objectively a better movie all around. It is bigger, grander, and everything they did in the first film is more fine-tuned and fleshed out in the sequel. So even though it's ranked 2 on my list, think of it more as 1A and 1B. But what is it about Spider-Man 2 that makes it so timeless and great? Well, to start off, it just has so much heart to it. The term superhero fatigue is becoming more prevalent, not because people are sick of comic book movies necessarily, but because a lot of the movies over the years are missing that heart and soul. Stakes aren't as high, and whenever there's a problem, a new superhero joins the group or the issue is resolved 10 minutes later. But with Spider-Man 2, what makes it so powerful is the fact that there is no bigger universe. It's basically just 2 hours of pain and suffering for Peter Parker as he tries to juggle his hero life with his personal life. He has a duty as Spider-Man to fight crime and save others around the city, but his own personal life is in shambles because of it. He can't keep a job. He lives in a rundown apartment with a shitty landlord. His grades are declining. The only steady job he has is taking photos for a newspaper that only wants to bring the Spider-Man down. His best friend thinks Spider-Man killed his father, and the love of his life is drifting away, all because he can't tell anyone about his secret. It's the Peter Parker Spider-Man dilemma, a story that has been told and retold countless times in the character's history. But I think Sam Raimi's interpretation of it hits that sweet spot. Just within the first few minutes of this movie, we go from scene to scene of just seeing Peter beaten down and down again because of this dilemma. It doesn't stop throughout the whole movie. Spider-Man is New York's greatest hero, but Peter Parker is practically a nobody who keeps getting knocked down by his greatest foe. Life. That's what makes it such a compelling narrative. It's not just a good guy punching a bad guy, then everything conveniently wraps up. It has moments of quiet, introspective dialogue that fleshes out what the character is going through. Long sequences where our character isn't suited up or fighting anything. I mean, it literally has a scene of the landlord's daughter asking Peter if he wants a piece of chocolate cake, then just sits there and watches him eat.
Would you like a piece of chocolate cake? And a glass of milk?
Oh boy, yeah.
God, I love this movie. It feels very grounded and relatable. In fact, it feels like the movie is more interested in Peter Parker than it is Spider-Man. We feel for Peter and even understand why he would choose to be Spider-Man no more. I mean, the majority of its 2-hour runtime is just showing us how terrible Peter's life is without any villains. And then eventually we all know a new one is bound to show up at some point and make things even worse. But the greatness of Spider-Man 2 is in its small, quiet moments. Again, this movie has so much heart and soul. And 20 years later, at least when I rewatch it, it makes me miss these types of superhero films. Not trying to be that guy who says they don't make them like this anymore, but objectively, they don't make them like this anymore.
He's right, you know.
Now, another great aspect of Spider-Man 2 is its main villain. It was going to be a hard task to top Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from the first film, but Alfred Molina's Doc Ock knocks it out of the park and is just as iconic. Why do you think the two of them showed back up again all those years later in No Way Home? Even Kevin Feige himself said that it would be hard to ever make a new version of these two villains because Dafoe and Molina's take on them were just so damn good. The difference between the two, though, is that Octavius is more of a tragic villain. He starts off just trying to do good for the world with his experiment, but unfortunately miscalculates and almost blows up the city, resulting in his wife being killed and him being corrupted by these mechanical arms that are fused to his body. And with that, we get an amazing performance from Alfred Molina as the iconic villain. I'd also like to mention that because of Sam Raimi, we get one of the greatest villain introductions ever put to screen with the famous hospital horror scene. It's pure chaos in a way that only Sam Raimi could do, but that's only the start of memorable scenes with Doc Ock. Whether it's the bank heist scene, the absolute god-tier train sequence, or the final battle, every moment with this villain is so freaking memorable. So even though I prefer Green Goblin over Dr. Yakti, again, think of it as 1A and 1B. Now, I hope this doesn't ruin the film for anybody or change how you view it, but one of my only nitpicks with this movie is the fact that Dr. Octavius only had metal arms welded to his body. And because of this inhibitor chip that's connected to his arms, he's now more or less being controlled by these arms, but nothing made him indestructible or have super strength within his own body. And so I've always wondered how the hell was he taking all these punches from Spider-Man, and whenever he was thrown around into buildings or cars, he didn't just turn to jelly afterwards. Like, I get it, in Spider-Man 1, Norman became super strong and pretty much could go toe-to-toe with whatever Spider-Man was throwing at him. But Doc Ock just has metal arms on his body. Yes, they help a lot, but damn, he took every punch Peter threw at him.
Hey, kid, it ain't that kind of movie.
So yeah, it ain't that kind of movie. It's a movie about a guy with metal arms finding a guy named after a spider. And you know what? I freaking love it. But besides it being a very serious and compelling drama at times, do you want to know what kind of movie Spider-Man 2 also is?
You have to go 42 blocks in 7.5 minutes. Your ass is fired. Go!
Pizza time. Promise, as soon as I
If promises were crackers, my daughter would be fat.
Where you been? Looking for you all morning. Why don't you pay your phone bill? Mad scientist goes berserk and we don't have pictures. Where were you? Photographing squirrels? All right, run a picture of a rancid chicken. Here's a headline. Food poisoning scare, Sweep City.
Some food got poisoned?
I'm a little nauseous, yeah.
Oh, but I'm giving piano lessons again.
You are? Ow!
God, I love this movie. This is what makes these three films so amazing, especially Spider-Man 2. You get heartbreaking scenes like Peter confessing the truth to Aunt May about Ben's death, heart-pounding scenes like the train sequence, inspiring monologues like Aunt May's hero speech to Peter, and shout out to Rosemary Harris in all three of these films. And then you have these silly-ass moments throughout the film. It's a formula that made these first two films so great, but in Spider-Man 2, it was perfectly balanced. I can't say the same about Spider-Man 3, but I'll get there eventually when I make a video about that movie. But without that cheesiness or humor, Spider-Man 2 wouldn't work as well as it does. So one of the last things I want to talk about is how great this movie makes you feel. I mean, that's why we go to the movies, right? We want to feel something. We love stories because of the lessons it can teach us, the characters we can get behind or root against. The worst thing a movie or story can do is leave the watcher or reader feeling apathetic or disinterested. And when it comes to Spider-Man 2, it's one of the most inspiring and feel-good movies ever made to me. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most, even our dreams. That speech from Aunt May perfectly encapsulated what this movie is about. I believe there's a hero in all of us, and throughout the film you see everyone showing bits of their courage and strength, not just Spider-Man. Whether it's Aunt May defending herself against Doc Ock and helping Spider-Man, or the little girl in the burning building trying to help Peter up, and then all the New Yorkers trying to protect Spider-Man on the train against Doc Ock.
He's gonna be sniffing my dick and sucking my asshole.
There's a hero in all of us, and Spider-Man 2 makes me feel all the feels.
That's what I'm talking about.
This shit means something to me, man.
It may be the nostalgia, but come on, nostalgia aside, this is just one of the most well-crafted stories ever made. And whether I'm 9 years old or 50 years old, this story and the messages within it will always be powerful to me. Always. Spider-Man 2, after 20 years, is still just as great as it was back in 2004. In fact, in hindsight, it may even be better because of it never being topped ever since. From the top-notch acting, incredibly memorable action sequences, and a story that in my opinion will forever be timeless, Spider-Man 2 checks off all the boxes you want in not only a comic book movie, but a movie in general. After all these years, it's really hard to say anything that hasn't already been said about this sequel. So I'll leave you with this. When I watched these movies as a little boy, they changed my world. They not only made me fall in love with Spider-Man, but they made me fall in love with storytelling and filmmaking. I wouldn't be making these YouTube videos if it weren't for these first two Spider-Man films. And not to get too personal, but I've lost both of my parents before the age of 27, and that little boy who first saw these movies didn't know that, like Spider-Man, he too would have to lose his parents at a young age. And he too would be helped by his own aunt and uncle. So because of this character, and especially these movies, I've lived my life trying to be good, even throughout all my adversity. I've tried to do what's right, instead of throwing in the towel. And I've tried to be like Spider-Man, and just hang on through it all. It's been 20 years since I first saw this movie. And even though I'm not a little boy anymore, whenever I rewatch these movies again, that little boy is still excited to watch. It will never leave me. Even though I get older, these movies will never change, and I will always have them. I love Spider-Man 2 and what it taught me back in the day, and that love will never fade. It takes me back to a simpler time where I had everyone I loved, and life was just so simple. It may be a little cheesy to say, but I'm just so grateful that the version I grew up with were these Raimi films. Spider-Man will always be my first love, and when it comes to these three films, I will always cherish the incredible times and memories each one gave me. Spider-Man 2 especially. So if you don't mind me, I might just wait here for a bit and let time pass.